positive messages. And then I was also going to read Craig's essay. So that doesn't take a lot of energy to read somebody
Okay.
else's essay.
Okay.
Um, blah, 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 blah.
Is this Craig, our
Yes, yes, yes.
consultant and
This,
movie critic?
yes,
Yeah,
yes. This
nice.
is great. So he was inspired by our discussion of toxic positivity, and he wrote his own
Nice.
essay. And I thought I should read it to make him happy and also maybe to encourage other people to do the same thing, to give us feedback. And maybe if they have something they want to say, either in writing or on one of our episodes, I want to encourage them by doing that. So that's what I was going to do as part 2 today. Okay.
Okay.
And then let's see. I had some other ideas I wrote you about, but they can wait. And I think we were going to do, you had mentioned a series about the Israelis and the Palestinians. I don't know where you were going to go with that.
We already started that.
I
And
need to
as
go back
far
and
as
listen to that.
series,
Yeah, I need
yeah,
to go back and
we
listen to that and see where we want to go from there. So we'll hold
yeah,
on that one.
that's fine. Yep. And when I say series, I don't mean that it necessarily has to be done one right after the other and everything else
Right,
has to wait.
right,
My
right.
fact checking series is whenever I get something up next, about fact checking.
Yeah, yeah.
And last week I released a video about Advantes Media. It's a fact checking group
Okay,
that put out a scale, and I love it.
awesome.
And Boyertown, or sorry, Pottstown Mercury, Reading Eagle, and Morning Call are all top center, which means that they have equal bias and a high level of reliability
Cool.
with their reporting. It's fascinating that the farther left or right you go, the less reliable you become and more propaganda you become,
Of course.
and the more
Yeah.
balanced, like up the middle, the more the more reliable you are,
I love that you
because you
found that
present both
lane.
sides. And
I love that you found that lane of positivity and the
yeah,
lane of up the middle. That's just fantastic. Fantastic. That's going to
yeah,
go far. Yep. Or it should.
I think so. I mean, it's taking longer to start, but I'm okay. I've got the determination and discipline. I can
Yeah.
thank Coach Yogi for that. Um,
Yeah.
and Susie for that matter.
There you go.
Um, but yeah, so back to you. We didn't get back to start of the recording in time to get it, so I'm going to recap. Wyomissing has done a
Yeah.
program that's part of our series on toxic positivity. So I'll let you pick up from there. And again, as everybody already knows, by the way, I'm Yergz.
And I'm Jane Stahl, and we are both sides now, right? Sounds good?
Yes, and this is our next episode for this week. Toxic positivity again in Wyomissing, as well as Craig's essay that we've inspired him to write. So go ahead, Jane.
Well, yes. I want to talk a little bit more about toxic positivity because I mentioned it. I think I mentioned it in our previous episode that the Wyomissing School District partnered with the Wyomissing Library. Um, they worked together in a campaign to blanket the borough, it says, and West Reading with signs that offer positive messages. They printed 250 signs with 11 messages, and each sign is on a metal stand suitable for planting in a yard, and the message is on weatherproof stock on both sides, and people can choose which message or messages to display. And they have a list of them. I'm going to read the list of the signs in case you are interested in having a few for your own yard. I know my son had made a number of yard signs back during COVID that had to do with, we love everybody, and listed all kinds of people, all kinds of ethnic groups, and, sexual identity kinds of folks, just to make it known that in his yard, he loved everybody. And I've walked
Nice.
the dog and seen signs in other people's yards that we stand with Ukraine. And I loved those over the past couple of years. And so people are kind of, yard signs are, they're annoying sometimes during political campaigns, but, it's just like one of my absolute favorite signs is the one that occurs every now and then in front of auto repair places that say, they're back, pumpkin spice what? Um,
Lattes.
brake linings or something. I just,
Oh,
I just, I, that makes me laugh every time I see that. But anyway, the signs read, your mistakes don't define you. You are enough. You matter. Don't give up. You are worthy of love. Tomorrow is a new day. You're not alone. One day at a time. It's not too late. And one of my favorites is you got this. When I hear that motivates me instantly. Those three words. I just love that. Anyway, in a recent article in the Reading Eagle in this area, the journalist David Meikle or McKeel reminds us that sometimes all it takes is one simple positive thought to turn a bad day into a good one, to try to normalize mental health struggles. And he offers a perspective from Jessica Lengel from the Wyomissing School District's Director of Pupil Services Department, who came up with the idea for the Sign Project after seeing a news story on TV during the pandemic. And basically, she says it's a campaign to say it's okay to have bad days, but a bad day or a bad incident doesn't define who you are. And we've got to understand that mental health issues have risen exponentially for students today. And Wyomissing created a mental health task force and welcomed the library when the library reached out and said they'd like to participate. Colleen Stam, Wyomissing Library's director, was happy to be involved. And she says, while the library offers a variety of mental health support programs, people resist attending because of the stigma attached to admitting a mental health issue. People just really put up boundaries. They don't want people to know maybe that they're struggling. Now, Colleen's favorite sign is tomorrow is another day, because like the entire program, the message is simple but poignant. And she says if it just brightens one person's day and makes them change the way they're feeling, then that's a success. She also hopes that the idea spreads and that other communities consider creating their own version of the effort. So you can contact the Wyomissing Public Library and the Wyomissing School District if you're interested maybe in buying some of the signs or in starting your own program, because they would love that if the idea spreads. And like I said, I'm often amused driving by a certain automobile repair garage advertising that they now offer pumpkin spice brake pads. It just makes me laugh whenever I
yeah.
realize that. And it takes me away from worrying or thinking about whatever it is I was thinking about. And that light moment, sometimes it lasts. It lasts. So anyway, that's one thing I wanted to give more attention to, because positive is the name of our game. Is it not, Ross?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, and it was kind of an accident. When I
Yes.
put together Yergz Radio, I needed it first for another platform for the podcast up the middle.
Yeah.
And, my own level of humility was like, I can't have a radio station where I'm on the whole thing. I'm no Howard Stern, or at least not yet.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I started reaching out to other podcasters who, I thought would, just struck me for one reason or another, having no idea or no planning that these guys and gals had a certain level of positivity on their own.
Yeah.
David Beckmeyer, who's going to be with us next week,
Yay.
the Misfits, who are a little bit more on an adult comedy type of thing. But one of the guys was homeless.
Wow.
Two of the members are in wheelchairs.
Wow.
One of the two wheelchair members is also an amputee. Three or four of them are on disability for other, mental health crisis items.
Yeah.
And they sit there, get drunk, and bust on each other, and it's funny. Um, your two dads, straight guys, proving that straight guys can't count, because there's actually three dads that are hosts of the podcast. I love busting on them for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, be inspired. Um, both sides now is now on it.
Yeah.
Everybody is just so. We're not about the, as David will say next week, we're not about the anger porn. We are about the positivity,
And
and they're great messages. Yeah, go ahead.
and putting a stake in it to say, wait a minute, here we are, and we're moving forward with this. I think will attract other people as well. And
Yeah,
that's something you're experiencing, and I think it's going to grow. And it's certainly, people like to be part of something bigger than themselves. And so let's give them being positive the thing, the team to belong to. How's that?
yeah, yeah, and
Right.
that is where it starts. Is these people that support places or organizations like Moms for Liberty, and
That's right.
and Donald Trump, just Donald Trump. They are disenfranchised people, and I know that's a left leaning
I know.
or buzzword. They're people who have been left out. They are
Yep.
people who have been screwed over, and they're people who have been fucked by
Yep.
life, society, the government, or they're
Yep.
people who just feel that way.
Yep.
And
Yep.
maybe if they did a little bit of research, they'd find that their life may not be so bad.
Yep.
But because now I've said earlier to somebody else, not here, what following Donald Trump has left are the people who aren't too bright or aren't smart enough to realize, how much shit he's in. And
Hmm.
those are the people that the government should be helping and supporting in the first place.
Hmm.
The people who really can't help themselves.
Hmm.
And so seeing signs like what's going on in Wyomissing, just a community saying, we're here. You're
Hmm.
welcome here.
Yep.
You're safe here, and we understand you.
Yep.
There's nothing toxic about that at all.
I love it. Well, in that same vein, then, about attracting other people, one of our most loyal supporters here on both sides now, and his name is Craig. Craig has been one of our most loyal supporters. And after he listened to one of our previous episodes about when we first started talking about toxic positivity, he was inspired to write his own essay about it. So I'd like to read it to you in order to, continue to grow the team, the positivity team, and in order to encourage other people to reach out to us with their feedback, whether it's positive or negative. We want to hear from you, and we want to hear what you want us to talk about. And also to encourage people to, like Craig, perhaps if you have something to say, send it to us. We'll invite you perhaps on the program to talk to us about it. But if you're shy and you just want to write us an essay like Craig did and send it to us, we will happy to share part of it or maybe even the entire thing. So if I'm going
I
to read
forgot to tell you.
huh?
I forgot to tell you.
What?
We have an email address now.
Oh, we do? Oh, go.
News, because I also use it for Yergz Radio, and
Yep, yep.
if you get a tip. But if you do want to reach Jane and me here, you can use news@yergz.com.
All right. Very good.
So we don't have to give our personals out anymore. Of
Wonderful.
course, if you know us personally, you can always reach out to
Absolutely.
me. I know Craig and Jane are in constant communication. and I would
Yep.
certainly not want to bypass that. But if you prefer news, and I'll put this on the screen or in the show notes and everywhere else, news
Okay.
at yergz.com.
Sounds good.
So go ahead.
All right. So
Do
this
you
is from
have
Craig.
Craig's? Are you planning on? Do you want to read that? Yeah, go
Yes, I
ahead. Let's
do.
do.
Yes, I do. This is from Craig.
Let's have it.
A friend recently emailed me an article about toxic positivity. It's all about how so many of the neat little aphorisms you hear from other people when your life seems to be falling apart can actually have the opposite effect from the one that they intended. Among other things, it reminded me very much of the motivational posters I've seen on the walls of school buildings here and there. Hitch your wagon to a star, they say, quoting Walt Whitman. Or, you can be anything you want to be. Let your dreams be your compass, and similar affirmations. When I see such things intended to inspire young people on to ever greater achievement, I have to think of the kid who is still 4'8" at the age of 15 and built like a fire hydrant with feet, but who really, really wants to play pro basketball in the NBA. Or the kid with a well below average IQ who dreams of being an astronaut. Or the tone deaf kid who yearns to sing professionally at weddings and other special occasions. Or the many others who have been duped by such pablum into believing that they can somehow surpass the capabilities with which they've been naturally endowed by pure effort of will. Are they headed for disappointment? I'll give you one guess. This strikes me as still another area where toxic positivity can rear its happy, smiling, cruelly misleading head. But I digress. The article in question dealt with such comforting offerings as everything happens for a reason, or have an attitude of gratitude, or what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. One of the lamest of these I've ever encountered is when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. I had a
I
good
love
friend.
that one.
I had a good friend who was 15 years older than I and had dealt with cerebral palsy from the time she was a young child. She had adapted to her disability quite admirably. She was proudly independent, intelligent, educated, and interested in writing. Among other things, she wrote speeches for politicians, including a few in Harrisburg and one in Washington. But her life was a constant struggle physically, and her ex-husband, her 3 sons, her meager income, and an array of other personal problems provided her with enough stress to drive any 3 or 4, quote unquote, normal people into the loony bin. She should have had an, quote, attitude of gratitude. For what? And if someone had suggested to her that she just, quote, make lemonade out of all her difficulties, I imagine that she'd have popped them one on the nose. And if she didn't, I would have. About 12 or 15 years ago, I was participating in a discussion group where one of the members had spoken in glowing terms of a recently published book by a sort of happiness guru who had made a career of studying what made people happy and helped them to overcome the difficulties in their lives. I was curious, so I obtained a copy and read it. The gist of his advice? Just let the negativity flow right through you. Don't think of it as harmful. Play with it. Have fun with it. Honest, he really said that. It made me think back several years to July of 2004 when I was diagnosed with a highly unusual form of lymphoma, for which at the time there was no effective treatment. Doctors could, at best, put into remission for a year or a year and a half before it came back a little nastier and harder to treat than before. But I didn't even ask how many times one could go through that cycle before it became completely pointless. So tell me, Mr. Happiness Guru, just how would you suggest that I might have played with and had fun with such a diagnosis? Fortunately, I qualified for a clinical trial at Fox Chase Cancer Center, and I've been cancer-free since March of 2005. The only such cliche I know of that makes sense and applies to just about any unpleasant situation you might find yourself stuck in is this: this too shall pass. And no matter what it is, indeed it will. You just need to wait it out. But the one that holds a good deal of personal meaning for me is something my dad used to tell me when I was suffering through still yet another adolescent trauma. Quote, "Nothing is the end of the world except the end of the world," unquote. During the darkest days of my divorce, I thought of that and realized the truth of it. No matter what happens to me, or you, or anyone else, the sun will still come up tomorrow. The birds will still sing. The grass will still grow, and the rest of the world will get up and go about its business. So, I had to hurt for a while, but every day that passed brought me a little closer to the one when, finally, this too shall have passed. And sure enough, it did. So again, that was written by Craig H. Bennett, who has authored Nights on the Mountain and More Things in Heaven and Earth. And both of those are available at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and the Firefly Bookstore in Kutztown, PA. So there we have it. That's our reader mail.
Nice.
What do you think?
Nice. Very cool. Very cool.
Making lemonade out of lemons is one of my favorite too. And we used that at Studio B, actually, as the graphic for when the pandemic shut us down. What we did then was went to digital and recorded, did visual recordings of our exhibits so people wouldn't lose the opportunity to see fine art. And so inviting them to our virtual tour of the gallery when we had a new show, we called that making lemonade out of lemons. So
yeah,
and
absolutely.
my father's favorite one I learned from my father was "This too shall pass," because his mother used to tell that to him all the time. And so that one is generational for me.
After a tough loss, my dad would say, "The sun's going to come up again tomorrow."
Mm-hmm.
The whole tomorrow's another day.
True. And that is true. So that's the end now of our discussion, I suppose. Well, maybe we'll have another essay next time from somebody else. But
I was just, that's funny you say that, because this whole episode reminded me that I owe Boyertown Expression another submission or contribution.
Do. Yes, you do.
So yeah. And I never did because of Hurricane Idalia. I did the 2 quotes from John Cena because of how it inspired me to live through a Category 4 hurricane. But I do because of I think also because of what we're doing with the contributions to the election. I want to talk about Anthony Hopkins. How he talks about, and what I was going to refer to in the first, my original one was supposed to be this: the best of us develop later in life. In high school, I was an idiot, and while perhaps I wasn't exactly an idiot in high school, I do like to think that I've developed further than just my successes in high school and through sports and what have you. And we actually talked about that in the growth of the 6 stages of morality. Was it
the theory of moral
development?
development by Lawrence Colbert? Yeah.
That quote was exactly what reminded me
one of the
when
things
we talked about that.
that I always ask my my guests on Be Inspired, because I spent so much time in the classroom of junior high and senior high, I always ask them, what you're doing now that we're having conversation about, the passion that you're displaying now in the area that you're displaying it, was that something you had planned to do or thought you'd be doing when you were in high school? And it's so fascinating that most people say, "Now, I had no idea I'd be doing what I'm doing now when I was in high school." Very few of them end up where they think they're going to be. I am the exception because I wanted to be a teacher before I went to school. And I can remember my mother. I can remember my mother in the summertime encouraging me to go down the street where they were having a Bible camp. And I said, "No, I'm not going." And she said, "Well, why not?" I said, "I can't read yet. And if they ask me to read something, I will be so embarrassed because I have not yet learned to read." I could not wait to go to school to learn to read. So I think that's funny.
Nice. We played school as kids.
Hey,
When
I
when the school
I developed
district had old books, that they
I
gave them to us, and
You played school? I love it. I in my
yeah,
neighborhood,
yeah,
I
yeah.
was the only
We
girl. I
made
was the
sure to
only
get the
girl.
teacher edition too, so we had the answers.
Oh, that's awesome. In my neighborhood, I was the only girl, and I decided I was probably about 8 or something, and I decided that we should have a club in my neighborhood, and it was called now I forget, the Junior Manners Club is what it was called. And the guys in my neighborhood came for one meeting and they never came again. I think that's so funny. The Junior Manners Club. I'm still there, Ross.
Yeah, yeah.
By the way, when I
You got to
met your
visit
cousin,
down here because I think the bar room next door, each house has kind of like a back living room,
yeah,
and
yeah,
in my neighbor's house, it's literally a sports bar. They've got four TVs on the wall.
or
They've got a
oh my
bar in the one corner of the room. They've got a stage in the other
God,
corner of the room. They sit and play music.
I love it.
You would have a hoot.
I would have a ball. Yes, yes,
I think we
yes.
could put you on the stage and do some readings,
Well, there you go. I
some
love to
spoken
read.
word evenings.
I love to read. Yes, that would be good. That would be good. I would love that. That would be good. So here we are again. And I want to invite our listeners, any of them who may be out there, to submit suggestions to us, to submit essays as Craig did for us, and we will be happy to share them with our other listeners or invite you to be a guest on our show. So it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
So next time,
Where as we wrap up, where all can we find you, Jane?
you can find me on your favorite podcast platform. My audio podcast is Be Inspired. And of course, you can also find articles about some of the things we talk about here on the digital news site that I help edit called the Boyertown Area Expression. That's where you can find me. And you can find me at Studio B Art Gallery if you're in Boyertown.
That was the last
Thank
one. Yeah,
you.
you got one more. Uh, I 2 times a week release podcast episodes for Up the Middle, a nonpartisan political podcast where we take from both the right and the left. Then daily, that's something else, another development I want to talk to you about.
Oh,
Daily, I have the Yergz Tonight radio show available on Yergz Radio. That's at 5:30. I don't know why it's tonight because it's like kind of sort of evening, and for the rest of the country, still the afternoon. But 5:30 p.m. Eastern on Yergz Radio. Just Google it. It will be the first and only Yergz Radio that comes up. And
mhm.
then, of course, right here, twice a week with Both Sides Now, you can get links to all of that at yergz.com, where you can also get our show notes. If you want to see the citations, or we can put, if Craig would approve, we can put his essay as a part of today's notes. Anything and everything that we talk about, prove us wrong, but start there at yergz.com. I think that's everything. There's
I
links to
think
that.
so.
There's the ticker that flows across the front of the homepage if you need a place to start. And then there's links all over that website. I actually had some really kind of sort of, I'll say, boring people be really excited about Yergz.com. So that was a good thing.
That is
So
really
till next
good.
week. Till
I'm
next
Jane
week, I'm
Paul.
Yergz.
And
And
you're
this is
also,
Both Sides Now. What
before
else?
you sign off, I just want to make this statement. As I said, maybe at the beginning of another episode, I met Ross's cousin. Well, no, I saw Ross's cousin. She's been a friend of mine, Mutual Admiration Society person in my life, Eileen Dautrick, who is the executive director, I believe, of the Tri-County Chamber of Commerce, at a reception last week, who allowed me to know that she was related to my buddy Ross. And she said, "So, do you call him Rusty?" And I said, "You know what? I don't, but that's what I'm going to call you from now on. I'm part of the Rusty Club. Just ask Eileen about it.
You've known me long enough. Yep,
Not,
absolutely.
just not comfortable with calling you Yergz. And Ross works, but I know that's not your favorite moniker. So Eileen and I
Actually,
decided,
Rusty is the least favorite.
is it the least favorite?
Actually,
Well, then I'm
Rusty.
definitely calling you.
Yeah.
I just needed to throw that
Um,
personal in there. Anyway, it was
I
fun.
was actually, I'm glad. No, I'm glad you brought her up because
I
I
love it.
had been thinking, and I hadn't written it down like I usually do for something like that. I had been thinking that if she hasn't been already, she would be a good guest for Be Inspired because I
And
don't think
that's
she was really
exactly,
planning on being in the
no,
Tri County either, and
yeah.
she's really succeeded with that. That's
She told
become,
she told me that she wanted to be a teacher and was a teacher for a while and
yeah.
hated it. So I said, "All right, stop
Mhm.
there. Don't tell me anymore because we're going to get together and you're going to tell me the story for the first time on a Be Inspired podcast. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah, I
make a
think
date
she'd
with
be a
her
great
real
guest for
soon."
that.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Now I'm Jane Stahl.
And I'm Yergz
There you go.
or
And this is
Rusty or Ross or whoever.
very good. And it's been fun again. And we'll see you hear from you next time. Okay.
Definitely. David Beckmeyer is going to be joining us next week from the Outrage Overload podcast and
I
This
can't
Week in
wait.
Outrage. And
Yeah.
we want to thank Donna Usavage for joining us this week from Boyertown Forward. We'll be doing more with her in the very near future.
And thank Craig again for being such a loyal supporter and submitting his essay to us. That'd be great.
You can
Okay?
submit to either Jane or me or at news@yergz.com.
I love it. Okay,
We'll see
buddy.
everybody next week. All right,
All
dear.
right.
See you again.
Bye.